So we jumped on, and as I always do, I say, "Oh, do you want to add anything, Vish?" And you're like, "No, I wasn't paying attention this week." And I was like, "Yo, same." But I was wondering about this though. Like that's why I was like, "Oh, let's just start the podcast." Is it because there's just so much influx of like things you're just like, "Oh, I need to like pause," or were you just like busy this week? I was also busy, but like at the same time, I try and fill
I
things
mean,
in. But you know what I
yeah,
mean?
I get the busy thing, but I think it's more just there's just too much going on.
Yo, for real, right?
Like like I think we need to let things settle to really know what's the actual facts of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally, totally. I agree with that. Even with like the UFO stuff and like I haven't read a book in so long because I've been like binging all this UFO stuff and like I was listening to the podcast about it, but at the same time just like there's just a lot of information going on. You know, like with the also with the Trump thing, how like we are
hmm
supposed to get tariffs and then all of a sudden like, oh, he just like partnered with Canada again in this thing and then like somebody's
Or
like,
delayed it,
oh,
yeah. For we'll
delayed
see.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, but he already had that bill that was going to be passed. So I'm like you're just making us look like left, right, left, right. It's like, oh, dude, I need to like chill out, you know?
hmm
And if we're feeling that, so it's like, okay, we're vestedly interested in like what's coming next, right? So, but if we're feeling that, it's like, what are other people feeling? You know, just like
Yeah.
that's probably what it is most of the time. You know, when I'm trying to like tell people aliens are like, dude, I can't even focus on that right now.
hmm
You
hmm
know, and like the anxiety over, you know, like what is coming next. I don't know. Like I've been seeing a lot of like aside from the Trump thing, there's like a lot of like watch out for 2027, blah blah blah. And you're just like, are you sure? Are you sure this is gonna happen? You know what I mean? Like just like the Trump thing, are you sure? Like I thought we were gonna get crazy disclosure in the first 2 days. Didn't happen. You're like, okay. I thought we
hmm
were gonna get a tariff thing. Okay, didn't happen. So you're like, is this just like is this the problem with the internet? Or like looking at too much information? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's just bombarded with information. I mean, but the thing is, like, some things could be true within that bombardment. Maybe that's the whole
Yeah.
plan of it all. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. Like maybe that is the thing. It's like if we just but I mean that's how psyops technically work. That's what they're saying
hmm
like for
hmm
the alien stuff. Like they'll give you like two truths and a lie. Or no, like one truth, two lies and a truth, you know? They'll bury it and then it's like you have to decipher what's real and what's not and then
hmm
like everything else is like a red herring. You know, like in communications, public relations, they talk about red herrings where it's like they'll make you look over here, but it's like they're doing something else over here. So it's like, why was that whole tariff thing so crazy? And we're like, oh my God, it's gonna be nuts. Everyone's preparing, whatever, whatever. Stock market's going around, and then like, no, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, it was like it's almost like a lot of you remember like 2012 and like early 2000s.
hmm
Remember like
Well,
there's
I mean,
a
I don't remember
Y2K.
it. But yeah, I remember
Well, you
there's the
remember like the
Y2K
Y2K
thing.
bug,
Yeah, yeah, I
and you're like
remember the
freaking
Y2K
out,
thing.
like
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I remember this distinctly. Like it was like year 2000, and in my head I was like, okay, well they said it was gonna all shut down, so we were all like at my aunt's house, and I was playing chess with friends, and then I was like, okay, here you go, 1-0, and nothing happened. I was like, I guess we're gonna keep playing this game, you know what I mean? And like, and then later it was like, no, it was actually the Mayan calendar. 2012 is actually when it's gonna end. And then 2012
Someone
came, and
is
we're like,
doing that. Yeah,
oh,
yeah. But
dog.
I heard about the Y2K thing. It was just like a bug they already fixed by the time it was coming down.
But they didn't announce that. You still
I I
had like
I think
mass
that they
hysteria.
well I think it's this. I think that they did say that thing that they had fixed this sort of issue, but it was news media that's like, well, it's gonna sell more if you say it this
Yeah,
way,
that's what I'm saying, bro. So
right?
it's like this is the weird like social experiment that's continually going on, which is like if you just pay too much attention to media, you're almost like it's like a double-edged sword. You want to know, but at the same time, you're like, do I really want to know? Or like, are you just gonna like fix this on the side? It's almost like there's two realities happening where it's like they make decisions at the top, and then we're like supposed to live with it, and
hmm
we're worried about what they're doing, but it's like on a day-to-day basis, like, does it really matter? You know what I mean?
hmm
Like I'm about to go climbing later. It's like, does that really matter? Like what your economics decision is? Maybe unless I feel it at, the grocery store.
hmm
But this is like an analogy for like the UFO thing as well. You know, it's like me obsessed with like, oh my God, they're like there's so much. But like if they are like, yeah, the UFOs are around us, you'd be like, that's cool. How much is milk?
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean? Like,
It's more about that. Yeah, how is this going to affect my life?
right? Like, will it be an existential crisis like we're all thinking about? Like for the first couple of days, you know, when they were like coming out with this, it was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And like, what does this all mean? Like Jake Barber's like Skywatcher, like, oh, we're gonna get some craziness in like 2025. But now it's like, just show me, bro, and I'll figure out what to do from there. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I think it's more that. I think it someone is generating like all this hype or craziness around it. Of course, trying to get that information out, but then is it something that's really that it's going to affect people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Right. It's just like, oh, it happened, or like the tariff thing. Oh, like the craziness leading up to it. Oh, what's going to do? It's going to lose all jobs and all these, like we talking about all these other recessions or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then it's
yeah.
like nothing happened.
Yeah, right.
There's,
And then like
no, we just
the
move
thing
on.
right? And then the thing that was circulating around, like everyone's like, oh, buy this instead of this, like those spreadsheets. And then I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
my
yeah,
mom
yeah.
sent me one. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
buy
then like
Canadian. Yeah, yeah, that
buy
kind of
Canadian,
stuff.
and then now it's
Yeah,
like actually throw that out. Just save that for later in case it comes back, you know? Unless something really drastic happens, it's like, do we need to care about it? And maybe that's why people have those jobs.
yeah.
You know, it's like Jake Barber, you care about it, bro. You know, like I don't have the money to like set up my own UFO
Sure.
like analysis system. I can just listen to the information that you're providing me with, but
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not, you know, like I'm not directly engaged in it like
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
are. And that's your job, bro, you know, and like you keep doing that job and you let us all know what's going on. Like there's a reason why there's like virologists
Mm-hmm.
like working on cancer cures and then they're like, hey, here's a cancer cure. Like that's cool, thank you, you know?
Yeah.
But like maybe too much information is like a bad thing. And this all stemmed from me asking you like, oh, any autopsy? You're like, I didn't pay attention. I was like, I didn't either, which is crazy to me. That we
Yeah.
both weren't like, but we're like always like, oh, what happened? What happened this week? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just too much. Yeah. That was interesting. You felt that, but I did hear like an interesting thing. Like, not this isn't really like world related
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like crises. But I was listening to this like lost civilization thing. Do you see that they made maybe you can check this out right now, like since we're like just chilling. Um, I
Okay.
heard that there's a square structure on Mars, and it was like it's been
Yeah,
known
I
about
heard
for a
about
while.
that, but I
Okay,
don't.
you did? All right,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. But I
And
don't
then
know
they
how
looked at
true
it,
that is yet.
but the thing is this,
But
in nature,
remember, there was even like
yeah.
things like, oh, there's a face on Mars too. That was like a long time ago too. Before.
But that's like pareidolia. Like you see faces in clouds. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
the square, the reason why the square is interesting is because nothing in nature has a right angle triangle. Right angle. Yeah, it's nothing's like perfectly right angle, and that's why they're like, oh, this is crazy because like
Sure. Yeah,
there's
yeah,
like a
yeah.
square. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you do if out of everything I've listened to, and the most compelling thing, I don't know if the science is right, but like Billy Carson, Forbidden Knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and like we they you know was there a colony on Mars and then like did they come to Earth and then they start building, you know what I mean, like but what would that do to your reality? Like what I'm trying to say is like would that
Yeah.
actually destroy anything? You just be like, oh, that's really cool information, I didn't know that that was
Right.
the way that was, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
explains why we're different from every other thing.
Sure.
I like I think the fear is that people are like, oh, if you announce this people are gonna
Mm-hmm.
freak out,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, like oh, we're all aliens, you know, but it's like okay, if we're all aliens, that just explains a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I get why I'm not like a dog. I get why I'm not like an octopus. Why are we
Right.
the only thing on this planet? It's the one thing that would actually make sense. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
prefrontal cortex grew so big. You know, maybe like octopuses are aliens too, like because they're so intelligent. But like, I don't see any tools like we have. You know. But okay, so where I was going with this is that um, they like Billy Carson's theory, or from what he's read, and the thing that makes sense, and I'm like, actually, this actually all lines up. Is we were like monkeys, you know? That's why we have like chimp DNA or like very close to it. And then they came and they look kind of like us, and they're like, oh, these humanoid looking things are kind of like us. They're just in an earlier spectrum of like evolution. So they started to like genetically engineer things. And think about like if we went to another planet, wouldn't we do the same thing? We'd be like, oh, there's like kind of this monkey thing. Instead of me doing the work, why don't I just like splice the DNA and like advance it? Right, for like productivity. Because remember you said like at the end of the day, we're always just mining for resources. If we find a planet, we're just mining for those resources. If we find like a meteor, we're gonna mine for those resources,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So like let's say you're like, oh, I need gold from Earth. And you see like a monkey looking thing. Wouldn't you be like, oh, this is actually if we should give it a bit of intelligence, it could probably like is that out of the realm of possibility, or do you think we'd have like laws like we can't affect the life form?
I think that it depends on the level of testings that you can do. I don't know, because we still do animal testing now, right?
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, so we do animal testing. So if we go to another planet, why wouldn't we do animal testing? So it makes logical sense that we would do animal testing there, and then we'd like create some sort of hypergenetic species that's different from all other animals on that planet. So if we were like monkeys back in the day, and then like we were living off the land and stuff, not monkeys, but it's like Polynesian people are the most native look, like indigenous people, they look the most like native, you
Hmm.
know? So if you saw a bunch of those and you're like, oh, it's not too far off from us, we could just like enhance them to make them more intelligent, right? And then let's say we did that and then they started to like build certain tools, you know? Which is basically describing how we got here. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? If
we're
right? So if you just
we're
said
still
like, hey,
doing that
aliens
now.
came, right? So it's like if that's why I like Billy Carson's thing because it's like if an alien race came and just like spliced it a little bit in order to help them do work, like we would do the same thing, and it actually explains a lot of how we got here. Because you're like, why why are we so different from our environment?